crime and a high-profile suspect. Joran van der Sloot is in custody tonight, suspected of killing a young woman in Peru. The crime took place 5 years to the day after American teen Natalie Holloway vanished on the island of Aruba. Her body was never found. And though van der Sloot was arrested twice in connection with the case, he was never charged for her disappearance. This time, as evidence mounts, he may be facing a very different outcome, as our chief legal correspondent, Chris Cuomo, reports.
Once again, police are interrogating Joran van der Sloot in the suspected murder of a young woman. This time, it is 22-year-old Stephanie Flores, whose body was found last week in van der Sloot's hotel room in Peru. And once again, he seems almost too calm as police search his belongings, finding cash in many currencies, a laptop, and some photos. Investigators ask, "Where are your credit cards?" In broken Spanish, Joran replies, "I have those back at my hotel in Santiago. I went up to my hotel room and I saw of these things on the internet, and I had to leave quickly."
He doesn't look disheveled, doesn't look disturbed. If, in fact, he committed this murder, that does say something about him. That says that, this is not a wholly disturbing act to him. And that speaks more to sociopathy, quite honestly, than anything else.
Under arrest, Joran van der Sloot.
It is all eerily familiar. Almost 5 years earlier to the day, American teen Natalie Holloway disappeared, and van der Sloot's first instinct when police came calling then was to worry about himself. Is this just cool confidence or the telltale character of a killer? His denials in the Holloway case were laced with lies that he explained when I first interviewed him.
Why would you lie if you had nothing to hide about Natalie Holloway?
I lied because, I was scared. I had a girlfriend at the time. I didn't want my dad to think bad of me. I didn't want my friends to think bad of me.
Why not just tell them the truth? Why didn't you?
I didn't want anyone to know. I didn't want anyone to know I left her at the beach.
A lot of thought went into this fake story. Do you understand why that would be troubling to people?
There wasn't actually a lot of thought in it at all. It was basically making it up as come along.
An unusual instinct to make up a story instead of assisting in the search for young Natalie, a decision that the then 17-year-old described as driven by self-interest.
Innocent people don't usually sit around when people are just looking for a young woman who's missing and think up how to lie about it.
Well, at one point I thought I was way too deep into it, and it was too late to go forward and tell the truth, because then you would look bad. You would look guilty. So now at this point we have to stick with the story. If not, they're going to think we had something to do with this.
My beautiful, intelligent, and outstanding daughter, who I haven't seen for 36 days and for whom I will continue to search until I find her.
He also seemed unable to empathize with the Holloway family, who were hostile toward the last person to see their daughter alive.
They show up at our house, screaming, cussing. I mean, the way they were putting pressure on us just probably made us want to lie more, because we seemed like we were in big trouble.
Even though they may have been hostile toward you, they were searching for a girl who hasn't been found.
They were searching for a girl that wasn't found, but...
And you lied to them about it.
And I lied to them about it, but how they acted towards my family and my friends is not a normal way that normal parents would go about if their daughter was missing.
A confusion that led to his contempt for Natalie.
What would you say to Natalie if you were still able to speak to her?
If I were to say her, if she were to be found tomorrow, I think I'd hate her. I'd hate her, and I'd...
Hate her?
Yes, I'd hate her. If she really ran away from home, if she did something like that, I'd hate her.
Over the years since the Holloway case, people close to Joran say he has changed for the worse. The one-time aspiring student started traveling the world in search of seedy casinos, poker tournaments, drugs, and trouble. Indeed, when I spoke to him just later that year about the case against him coming to a close, he seemed to ignore his responsibility and seemed annoyed at ever being put in this position.
When you think about fair and unfair, how do you see your situation in this whole dramatic scenario?
I think for a lot of parts I've been unfairly treated, because I have nothing to do with this, and a lot of people seem to think I do.
An arrogance that was in full flower in this incident with Dutch crime reporter Peter de Vries. Joran throws wine in de Vries' face after a talk show appearance where de Vries voiced suspicion about van der Sloot's story. But de Vries would get the last laugh with the help of an ex-con named Patrick van der Eem, who had befriended van der Sloot. The two set up a sting. They rig an SUV with hidden cameras, and after Joran returns home after his second arrest in Aruba, he is ready to talk to his new friend, apparently admitting how Natalie died. Once again, it was all about Joran.
Did you try to resuscitate her?
Of course, I tried everything, man. I tried to shake her. I was shaking. I was like, what's wrong with you, man? I almost wanted to cry. What have to happen to me?
Van der Eem saw his friend as oddly lacking feeling.
Do you believe that he was that indifferent, that he cared that little about whether she was alive or not?
This guy has no emotion, no feeling.
Something that really came across when Joran seemingly admits to not knowing if Natalie Holloway was even dead when he decided to dispose of her body.
I'm asking you, how were you so she was dead, man?
I wasn't sure.
But she could have also been in a coma.
Yeah,
That's possible too, huh?
that's possible.
The general profile of people like Mr. van der Sloot are that they tend to be impulsive, they tend to be narcissistic, and they don't think about their actions.
While the apparent confession didn't lead to his rearrest, de Vries' investigation revealed profound character flaws in Joran van der Sloot. After that sting came more hidden video from de Vries, this time from a Bangkok hotel.
I like dancing.
Well, and he offering you 15,000 baht to dance.
Van der Sloot is accused of bringing two Thai women to meet two men he thinks were owners of a Dutch sex club. He's accused of trying to convince them to go to Holland to work as exotic dancers.
And how long I have to dance for? 1 hour, 2 hours?
No, like from 5 in the afternoon to 5 in the morning.
Earlier this year, a desire to line his own pockets would even lead Joran to allegedly attempt to extort money from the Holloway family. According to a federal criminal complaint, van der Sloot allegedly sought $250,000 in exchange for information about where Holloway's body could be found and details of the circumstances of her death. Just last week, he was charged with extortion and wire fraud.
If, in fact, he committed the Natalie Holloway murder, then he would think he got away with that. And that, unfortunately, would embolden him to feel that, he really can do what he wants and not suffer the repercussions.
Back in Peru, Joran was paraded in front of international media 3 times wearing a bulletproof vest. And for the first time, he seemed a little frightened. One can only imagine that his concerns begin and end with his own fate. This is Chris Cuomo for Nightline in New York.